What's up guys, Skittlerampage here. So today we're going to be talking about the best-selling Funko Pops of 2021. Some of these might really surprise you. So let's check it out. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the best-selling Funko Pops of 2021. It's a little bit of a more interesting video because some of these are very surprising. They even shocked me. Now before we jump into all that, we do have our question of the day, and that is, how much do you think you've spent on your Funko Pop collection versus how much it is now worth? Do you think you've spent more or less than what it's worth now? Let me know down below. Now the other day, for those who missed it, Funko had kind of like a little bit of an analytical meeting, or it's kind of like basically like a board meeting almost, and they shared a lot of different analytics and a lot of different ideas and strategies that they have to make more money coming into 2023 all the way up to 2025, I think it was, or maybe a little bit past that. Anyways though, in all of that, they did actually share their top 10 best-selling properties in all 4 quarters of 2021. And what I mean by quarters, it's quarters of the year. For example, quarter 1 would be anywhere from January through March. Unfortunately though, we do not have quarter 1 of 2021 based off this graph. We only have quarter 2 through 4. However, based off quarter 2 through 4, we can get a general idea of what some of the best properties were. So taking a look at their graph here, all the way at the bottom, starting at number 10, we do have Naruto there. So Naruto, surprisingly enough, did actually make it on this list. They had around 30 to 35 releases last year of multiple different things, Funko Sodas, Funko Pops. Now an idea of what did release last year for Naruto, we did have a ton of different stuff. As you guys do know, over at Funko Fair, they released a majority of the pop line for 2021. We had popular exclusives like glow-in-the-dark specialty series Naruto, the chase bundles for Minato and Kakashi Anbu, glow-in-the-dark Pain, Gaara Metallic, Rock Lee was a big one, Naruto 6 pads, all the commons. And then we also did have the Naruto Sanrio set that was very popular, Jiraiya as a New York Comic Con exclusive, Naruto 6 pads in the soda, as well as we did even have the Madara T-bundle there that was a really hot seller. And I know some people are probably wondering why it's at the number 10 spot, because compared to some of these other categories, Naruto alone just wasn't selling as much as these other ones. If you included all the animes together as one category and one license, then technically yes, they would probably beat most of these other ones on this list. However, Naruto just solely, it had enough exclusives and common releases to make it on the top 10 list. Coming in at the number 9 spot, we did have Mickey Mouse. So Funko did the same thing like they did with the anime category and split up the licenses here versus just putting it all under Disney. So we did have a lot of different stuff for Mickey Mouse. Like we had the multiple sets of kind of like them down the line of Mickey and Minnie. We also did have the 50th anniversary there, which was a huge hit amongst Disney collectors. And then we also did have the Mickey Mouse kind of Hot Topic exclusive where he's holding a popsicle, as well as the Jungle Cruise. And there were a ton of different other Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, Goofy, and other different pops like that. And like I said, there were a lot of different Mickey Mouse Funko Pops, but I think the Disney 50th anniversary pops was like the biggest chunk of change in Funko's pocket, making this into that number 9 spot. At number 8 for quarter 2, we did have Seinfeld. I'm not gonna lie, this was actually pretty surprising. I expected it to be up there in sales, but not over Mickey Mouse or Naruto, for example. But if you look at all the Seinfeld pops, they released a ton, so I'm not really surprised, but also surprised at the same time, if that makes sense. Plus, of course, you do have the contributing factor of Seinfeld being one of the biggest TV series out there. I was a little surprised to see DC so low on this list at number 7, and of course, as at the top is Marvel at number 1, but DC is fairly low compared to Marvel. At DC, we did have the re-release of Justice League Pop, some new characters there. We also did have the DC comic covers. I do believe DC had the first ever comic cover, so that was a huge chunk of change because it was a new product. They also had the Dia Day Pops, as well as breast cancer awareness in the Imperial Palace ones. Outside of that, I couldn't really find anything that was maybe like, whoa, unless it was like a, individual release, kind of like the metal Batmans that kind of released throughout the year. Other than that, I do feel like these main properties here were some of the best-selling things to get it to that place. I really wasn't expecting Space Jam to be at number 6 above DC because, yes, Space Jam, obviously, it's a big franchise because of all the Looney Tunes characters, and everybody loves Looney Tunes and it sells very well. I don't know how well received the movie was. I personally never went and saw it. I just wasn't that interested. I do like the original one. I grew up watching that, but I just wasn't expecting it to be like right in the middle of the top 10 for that quarter. However, it is also very dependent at what was releasing in those 3 months, because DC could have released one of their lower lines in those 3 months, and that's why it sold better. But it matters how many times something appeared on the top 10 list throughout the year versus just that one spot. So Space Jam even being that high up was still pretty good, but if DC's appearing twice on other lists, then obviously it sold better throughout the year. Now, Star Wars, right in the middle of our list, they had some really hot releases last year. We did have the Bad Batch, we also did have the comic art series there, which was actually a really cool thing, to be honest, and so many people were excited. We had the Bounty Hunter collection, which was a big thing over at GameStop. Darth Maul at Chalice was a huge exclusive, and then you also did have Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn, the Amazon exclusives, and plus all those other random individual trickled in exclusives and common pop releases. This isn't everything, just some of the hottest things that I did notice. So Star Wars is always going to be on this top 10 list most likely, and it does appear throughout every single quarter of this year. Now, in my opinion, I do feel like this kind of counts as Star Wars, given it is technically the Star Wars brand, but they separated it for some reason, and we do have the Mandalorian here. Honestly, it was Grogu. They released so many Grogus last year that was one of the biggest contributing sales factor. Everybody loved Baby Yoda. Everybody wanted everything they could get their hands on of Grogu. And that's why it's so high on the list for that quarter, because they could not get enough of Baby Yoda. Honestly, that's literally it. Like, all these other ones, we had some really great exclusives for The Mandalorian, but it's Grogu. Like, nobody can tell me any differently. It was Grogu. They made so many, and people were just eating them up last year, and they still are this year. At number 3 in quarter 2, we did have Lilo and Stitch, and based off these releases, just looking at them, I am not surprised at all. Taking a look at it, here's Stitch from last year. Legit, as you can see on this glam, it is 95% Stitch with 2 Lilos in there, and then we have the little minis of other characters. They don't really have very much variety in the Lilo and Stitch line because Stitch sells the best, he's the cutest, and that's what everybody wants for the majority. A lot of people would prefer other characters, but when you're looking at it and you're like, oh, we could just make another Stitch variant and make another $1 million, you know? So just looking at the sheer amount of Stitch Pops last year, I'm not surprised it's in the top 3. Now, the interesting thing about this, though, is it doesn't actually make an appearance in quarter 3 or quarter 4, because most of that stuff over at Funko Fair was the majority of the sales, and then you had these sprinkled in Funko Shop exclusives, random Hot Topic exclusives. They just weren't enough to make it back on the top 10 board. However, still, making it in the top 3 for a quarter, that's very impressive. At number 2, in quarter 2, we do have Harry Potter. I was surprised to see this so high up on the list, because this does actually make multiple appearances last year, even taking the number 1 spot in quarter 4 of 2021. And there were a good amount of releases last year for Harry Potter. However, I think this specific reason is why, and that is they released so many different deluxe pops last year. Pop Towns, just bigger pops that cost a lot more money, and we don't realistically know how much this actually does cost them to make. Obviously more than your 4-inch style pop. But if you're taking a look at it, you can see a lot of deluxe pops, advent calendars here, you have the mini moments, you have your individual pops, your other like little Funko Shop exclusives, and other little releases sprinkled in. The Patronuses, like there was so many little different things that were a lot more expensive than your regular Funko Pops, that I guess that's why it took the number 2 spot, but I was really surprised. I'm not shocked at all that Marvel took the number 1 spot nearly every single time, because look at some of these releases. We had Loki. Alligator Loki was one of the best exclusives last year. We also did have WandaVision there, which was huge. It was so huge. Spider-Man No Way Home Wave 1. We also did have the Infinity Warps, Mech Strike. We also had the Blacklight exclusives like Ghost Rider over in the Funko Shop that sold out in minutes, even seconds, I think. I don't even remember, but it was crazy. So it's just kind of like Marvel released so many good things, and I think a majority of it was WandaVision and Loki. I think that was so much of the revenue because those shows were such big hits amongst fans, and we literally, actually, now that I think about it, last year, there were shortages of these pops. People were paying $50 for $10 commons because you couldn't find them anywhere for WandaVision and Loki. It was nuts. Now moving to quarter 3, in the top 10 place was Avatar: The Last Airbender. However, it doesn't make another appearance on this list. I'm not surprised though that it made it in the top 10 because look at some of the releases last year. Also, before we jump into that actually, think about it. Because back in 2020, we had the pandemic start, okay? And then we had so many new Avatar fans because Netflix ended up getting the license, they threw it on their platform, and everybody started watching this, consuming Avatar: The Last Airbender. And at that time, we were experiencing shipping delays, and we still are these days. But back then, we were actually experiencing a lot of heavy shipping delays on these Avatar pops. So people were starved for Avatar products. They were starved for them. And then they started restocking them. And then eventually those restocks came in, and then we also had the next wave of pops announced, which were these. We had popular ones like All Elements Aang, Suki, Ty Lee there. We had the Battle Funko Shop exclusive Aang, the metallic one at Funko Hollywood. We had the Spirit Mask Zuko over at Hot Topic. Spirit Aang there, glow in the dark. Azula with her chase, Firelord Ozai, the NYCC Aang. There was a ton of different stuff that released last year. However, I can't see why they ended up with that number 10 spot because look at that second wave of Avatar pops. It was insane. Now, Marvel What If at number 9 was actually a really great place for this because the show was an absolute hit. We had mystery minis, we had the Marvel Collector Core box of the Collector and Black Widow, and then we had all of the different exclusives, bigger pops, and the commons. They released so many great ones for this, so number 9 is like perfect for this one. However, as you can see in the other quarters, it didn't make any appearances because it was just that one big burst while the show was active. Back at number 8, we did have a Naruto there. So Naruto is kind of self-explanatory in how well it does sell because again, I showed you guys we had so many different great exclusives and so many different great commons that did release. The Funko Soda, the Sanrios, like there was so much great stuff. I'm not at all surprised that it definitely got a little bit of a boost. Plus, restocks also might have contributed to jumping it a little bit higher. Now, Star Wars at number 7 did drop down a couple levels, which was kind of interesting to see because Star Wars is such a huge franchise. It's hard to believe that it's not always in the top 3 with how many Star Wars variants and pops they're constantly putting out. And if you don't know, last year they released like over 100 different Star Wars characters and variants, so it's kind of surprising to see it in that medium range. At number 6, in quarter 3, we did have Pokemon. Nobody's surprised by this. I'm not surprised, you're not surprised. With how many Diamond Collection, Glow in the Dark, Flocked, Metallic variants, Silver Metallic variants that they put out last year, like, I'm not shocked. I'm just not shocked. Plus, if you think about it, they released the Charizard Funko Pop last year, and that was a huge hit. Everybody loves Charizard, and everybody wanted to buy Charizard. So taking a look at some of the releases last year, this is not everything, but some of the bigger ones. We did have the common releases of like Dragonite, Caterpie, as well as Charizard, Horsey, Pikachu. Pikachu has a billion variants. Advent calendar was huge, and then you have your Diamond Collection Comic-Con variants. And I do feel like if they continue to do what they're doing with Pokemon now, where they're just making the variants of characters and releasing small different batches of new characters, they're definitely going to stay up there because people eat up those variants. At number 5 in quarter 3, we did have Nightmare Before Christmas. This is probably one of Disney's biggest selling franchises, especially for Halloween, and they had some great stuff last year. We did have the train set there, which was a huge hit because the first one was the Mickey and Friends, and everybody loved that. Then we had the Pop Rides. We also had the Artist Series. Not too crazy, but it definitely contributed. We had the multi-packs of commons put together, and then you had your Funko Sodas there, which contributed to a lot of revenue just with those singular sodas. Like legit, I did the math. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars just for those sodas. It's insane. At number 4 in quarter 3, we did have a DC Comics there. So it was just shy of the top 3, but Harry Potter beat it again. I'm not exactly sure how, but Harry Potter beat DC Comics, which is just nuts to think about. And in our top spots, number 2 being The Mandalorian. Again, it's those Grogus. I'm telling you, it's those baby Yoda pops. People love them. They adore them. They just buy them up in the thousands. Anyways, though, Marvel, again, taking the number 1 spot again. Some of those releases last year, just Loki, WandaVision, Spider-Man No Way Home, insane. Coming back in quarter 4, at number 10, we did have Naruto there. So Naruto sold very well for them last year. Very well compared to all the other anime lines we had. And we had a ton of different anime pops last year. This year we had a lot more, I do feel like. But 2021 was a great year for anime. And Naruto ended up making it up there compared to some of these other lines. Now this one made it into the top 10 for Funko in quarter 4, Five Nights at Freddy's. And I'm not saying that Five Nights at Freddy's isn't popular. I'm not saying that people don't love like the merchandise that Funko puts out or any kind of Five Nights at Freddy's merchandise. But it was so surprising to see in that quarter that it sold so well that it made it in their top 10 of net sales. It's crazy because there were no pop releases. They did not release any Funko Pops last year for Five Nights at Freddy's. and they still made it in the top 10 for one of the quarters. That's insane to think about. It beat so many different licenses that had a bunch of different pops out. It's just so crazy to think about. I will say you FNAF fans are dedicated. Coming in at number 8, we did have a Demon Slayer. I did feel like this one was kind of low. I thought this would be a lot higher. I definitely expected it to be in the top 10 because Demon Slayer was just a huge reveal at Funko Ween last year, and everybody was so hyped up. So many pre-orders were placed that day. And I do feel like this was at peak hype of Demon Slayer and all the new products that were coming out and figures and statues, and then Funko putting out their figures. I felt like this was going to be so much higher than number 8. Because taking a look at the pops here, we had all the main characters for the most part in common form. We had multiple different chases. We had the Tanjiro versus Rui moment. We had Giyu Tomioka. We had Water Dragon Tanjiro. Like, there were so many great ones in this wave. And number 8 feels so low. It's okay though, leading into quarter 1 of 2022, it was back on that top 10 list, so it definitely sold really well. Back again at number 7, we did have Nightmare Before Christmas. I'm actually relatively surprised that sold better than Demon Slayer at that time. However, given it was Christmas time and people are eating up that merchandise and restocks probably happen of different things and other things were announced, probably. It kind of makes sense given it's Christmas time. Now taking the number 6 and 5 spot, DC and Star Wars. Again, not surprised at all by these. These are huge selling franchises for Funko. Oh look, Pokemon's high up on the list again. Who would have thought? All those freaking diamond variants. And the ones that battled for the number 2 and 1 spot, Harry Potter taking number 1 and Marvel number 2. It is crazy to think with how much content Marvel released last year that Harry Potter beat them in a quarter for sales. It's crazy to think about that. Alright guys, so that's everything for this video. I kind of just found it very interesting, some of the top properties that sold last year, some of them being Marvel, DC, Harry Potter, Star Wars, etc. Naruto for our anime, and Demon Slayer. It's nuts. I really thought there would be more anime on this list, but it's just crazy to think about. If they don't combine all these anime properties, they don't even make the top 10 in sales. Star Wars, DC, all these other licenses are so much bigger. And I feel like other collectors are like, they put out so many anime pops and Funko's selling all these anime pops and most of them don't even make it into the top 10 in their quarters. And even taking a look at quarter 1 and quarter 2 of 2022, there's not very much anime on there. It's My Hero Academia, Demon Slayer, and Pokemon. That's pretty much it. So not even Naruto has made it up on the board yet. But we'll see what happens. The next Naruto wave has yet to be revealed. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on some of these top selling properties. Were you surprised or shocked at all by some of these being much higher or lower? So with that, I do want to say a big shout out to all the amazing Patreons that do support myself and the channel. You guys absolutely rock. If you guys want to join the Patreon and check it out, check out that link down below. We do have a Patreon only Discord where we share a lot of information, news, updates, links, restocks, and more. And it's a great little community with over 160 plus members where you guys can make a lot of great friends. We also have a Facebook group with over 15,000 members that's buy, sell, and trade, and make sure to be following me on my social medias over on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Alright, love you guys, see you guys in the next one, see you guys later, bye.